the city matures, there are a series of maintenance needs that we need to be able to focus on. And these are long-term, expensive projects. And so there's a different funding mechanism aside from just the general taxes that we collect for operations. So we look at these as long-term investments in the community. So the answer to that is yes, there's an impact on the taxes. The ability of the city through valuation increases to hold that direct impact to the residents is a strategy that the city likes to implement. These are projects that are strategic and long-term in nature. If we don't pass some of these bonds, then our ability to maintain the community to the way that we have come accustomed to is a challenge. Streets will be repaired at a slower pace, and the development will happen at a much slower pace. Was really on community development, park development. That's where a lot of the majority of the funds were. You'll remember that the community center was built off of that. Central Park was built off of that. Timbers Nature Preserve was built off of that. This is a little bit different because the community is no longer growing, and we really have most of the infrastructure we need. This is maintaining what we have and making sure that it stays at a level of maintenance that we expect.
The charge that council had given us was to really start from the beginning, to listen to the information, to assimilate that information, make sense of that information, and then turn it into a recommendation with really very little boundaries, if you will, from them, and one might say a lot of leeway to be able to really craft something that really made sense for the city. The staff in our deliberations was a critical role, and they were wonderful. I enjoy the opportunity on many different levels of working with the staff. We had some new staff that we were able to get to know and that we were able to get to work with, but the knowledge, I didn't realize how much knowledge the staff has collectively about just this city, about cities in general, about whether it's landscaping, public works, police and fire. The wealth of knowledge here is amazing, and it's really in some ways probably an untapped potential that we have here. But staff really was the critical piece in doing the first line of filtering of these projects and making sure that they were brought together in a logical manner, and we worked with them to say, this is how we need information, this is how we need it from you, these are the information points that we need, and we brought them into our process so that they understood our process too. So it was really a teaming effort, and we were working with them as partners. It wasn't a committee versus staff, it was a whole group working together, and the staff brought the information to us, presented it to us in the way that we needed to assimilate it in our process, and then they stayed with us throughout the entire process, and they were a part of the smell test at the end of the process as well to say, hey, does this make sense for the city based on our experience? Because we're coming from the perspective of people that live in the city, volunteers, but the staff works here, they know the intricate details of the city, they know how a project could fill out if it was implemented in the city, and so it was a very important perspective that they brought, and we wouldn't have been able to do this process without them. All of the recommendations that came from the staff were things that had been filtered up through other committees and boards within the city, things that had been discussed for a long time. None of this was new, none of this was surprise, none of this was things that somebody just decided a week before we started meeting. This was a representation of everything that others in the city had already put countless hours in and time in, that made sense for the city. And so through that and the 2 town hall meetings that we had with the city, it really is the culmination of everybody's work across this city and bringing it together. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that this was not just really an effort by just this committee. It really represents the work that everybody has done. We had the privilege of putting a process together to be able to make it make sense and get it into a manageable format that we felt was a thing that voters could evaluate in this election. But this is really the culmination of work of hundreds of people across this city.
Citizens will be voting on 4 propositions, Propositions A through D. Proposition A concerns street improvements. Proposition B is public safety facilities improvements. Proposition C is municipal building improvements, and Proposition D is parks and recreational facilities. The 4 ballot groups were determined by City Council upon the advice of a Capital Projects Advisory Committee. The Capital Projects Advisory Committee, or CPAC, was a group of residents of Murphy who were selected based upon their experience and their desire to help the community. A CPAC met for a period of 8 months, and over that 8-month period they heard presentations from staff, the city engineer, and financial experts. The CPAC came up with a final list of recommendations that they presented to the council early on during the summer. Council took that list of recommendations, again listened to presentations from staff and the experts, and came up with their own list, which they finalized on August 15th, 2017. If all 4 of the ballot propositions pass, staff will begin a process of engineering and design. We'll work with hired engineers to design all of the projects. We'll have to bid out the projects publicly. That will take several months also. We're looking at the earliest to begin construction late summer 2018. If all 4 ballot propositions pass, property taxes will increase for the average home in Murphy by $66 per year. That equates to $5.45 per month in terms of the increased property tax rate. If only some of the ballot propositions pass, then staff will begin work immediately on those ballot propositions. We'll again start with the engineering and design work, moving to construction as rapidly as possible. For those ballot propositions that don't pass, staff will work to incorporate those into the annual operating budgets during the coming budget cycles. Residents will be able to keep track of the projects through the city's website. Staff will work to have a very comprehensive overview of the projects and keep that status up to date so that anyone can access the website at any time and get current information regarding the projects. We'll also make routine and regular reports to City Council during the City Council meetings that will provide a comprehensive overview of the project and again give staff, the community, and City Council a good feel for where we are.
My desire on these bonds is not to promote this or try to sell this to you. It's not my role. My role is to oversee the process, ensure that the bonds that we're recommending make sense, are fiscally smart moves for the community, and then to provide you the information you need in order to make an appropriate decision once you get to the ballot box. You're gonna have an opportunity at the November general election to make your decisions. There'll be 4 bonds that'll be presented to you. My request to you is educate yourself, understand what we're trying to do, and make the decisions that you feel are in your best interest and the community's best interest. And I thank you.